Welcome to the Once Your View podcast with Olu Dolapo. This podcast was created as a space for real people with real life experiences that most people can relate to and learn from. Have a great time listening.
Hi guys, welcome back to my podcast. And today, my guest and I will talk about quarter-life crisis. And over time, I've got to realize that in popular psychology, a quarter-life crisis is a crisis involving anxiety over the direction and quality of one's life, which is most commonly experienced in a period ranging from a person's early 20s up to their mid-30s. Although a quarter-life crisis can begin as early as 18 years, and it is defined by clinical psychologist Alex as a period of insecurity, doubt, and disappointment surrounding your career, relationships, and financial situation. So this is what my guest and I will talk about today.
What's Your View podcast?
So please introduce yourself.
I'm struggling not to scream because I'm so excited. Okay, so for everyone who doesn't know me, or which you don't know me, I'm probably judging you. My name is Shittu, but everyone calls me Yinka Seth. I'm a public health professional. It's just a fancy term for vibes. But beyond that, I'm more active as an artist, as a spoken word performer, as an influencer of sorts. But yeah, Chop Life Gang.
Yeah, thank you, Adeyinka. All right, so let's jump into it. So would you mind sharing some of the seemingly quarter-life crises you think you have experienced and how you passed through the phase?
Okay, so before we go to the quarter-life crisis, I will introduce the pre-quarter-life crisis. And it's the one that starts to happen around your teenage period, where the quest for identity starts to surface, right? So you're there prepubescent with a few strands of beard on your chin. In my case, I didn't have any. And at 16 years old, when you're done with secondary school, you are supposed to decide what the next 40 years of your life is supposed to be, right? Typically, go to university, pick a career, and all of those things. And those things can be overwhelming for a very young person. So I think that's my first recollection of what it means to have a quarter-life crisis, or pre-quarter-life crisis, as you will have it, right? The realization that your career is supposed to be entirely in your hands. Now, that's mild compared to the other things. Now, so the grand part of it is that there now comes a time in life where, at least I kind of feel like I'm in the middle of that, where to some degree you are doing what you think is your best, or you have, in a manner of speaking, followed the rules. You have done what you're supposed to do. You have gone through school. You have been, in my case, a good boy. Then what's next, right? So, and there around those times now come into play the fear that you are not doing with your life what you should be doing. There is the fear that at the place that you are in life, you are not doing as well as the people that you know are. And while that is a fear that people claim will never quite leave you, because the same thing replicates in midlife crisis, is that at your quarter life crisis, it becomes incredibly depressing, because it's like all of the foundation that you have built your life on start to crash. Because for instance, in my case, was that if you study a course like medicine and you come out of school, you would never have to look for a job. But there are many people who did the kind of work that I do who are still looking for jobs, or who are underpaid. So for instance, you go to school for 8 years as a doctor, and then you come out and a tech bro is earning more than you, and starts to make you start to question your life. Am I doing something wrong? Or if you, for instance, were a gifted child in primary school, you're like, oh, this guy's this school is so much potential, he's going to do so much. And you get to a place where your boss is giving you hell. It makes you start to it puts you in a place where you question your decisions. And while I may have said that in the abstract, that is actually the story of my life.
Okay, so based on what you just said, right, what would you say is the journey of someone who grew up practically without a father figure, and someone who grew up with both parents, right? How is it easy to figure out or to go through quarter life crisis for such a person? Do you understand my question?
Yes, I do. And
let me just expatiate on that, right? So I lost my dad when I was 4. You know this, right? And over time, I grew up with my mom, and I figured out a lot of things personally on my own, apart from books that I read, messages that I listened to, and other people that I spoke with. And to me, practically, I think it's such a tough journey for me to figure things out. Compared to someone who has both parents who are present and who are ready to listen and to walk you through life, right? From your own perspective, I know you are in this kind of shoe. What would you say is the journey like for you?
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry. I mean, I know that, but every time I think about it, I just cannot imagine just what you had to go through. Now, as to how having both parents affects people, I really think it's on a case-by-case basis, right? Because there are people who have extremely supportive parents who don't quite figure life out very well. So it's more predicated on individual strength and actually the place of parents. That's one. Now, you can say that it's easy for me to say because I had both parents. But then again, we also forget that there's a third factor we may not be considering. People who have father figures who are not actually present in their lives.
Yeah.
Right. And so those things, yes, I do think that it helps. So what I like to say is, let's not call it a father figure. Let's call it a nurturing environment. I do that it's incredibly difficult going through life feeling like you are missing something, which is the essential ingredient of a father. But I find that having a father is beneficial, but it's not the magic secret. What's more the magic secret is having a supportive environment of people who love you, people in a position of authority over you. And if not your father, a father figure can as well be a leader in your church, someone that you respect very much, right? And so those things, I would defer to you to say they do help, but I do say that the defining factor is more the strength of your character, what you are willing to do, as well as the environment that allows you to grow into your fullness of yourself. Does that in any way address what you're
Yeah. So to the next one, what are the common symptoms of a quarter-life crisis? So over time, I've got to realize some symptoms are often feelings of being lost, scared, lonely, confused about what steps to take in early adulthood. And some time ago, I read a book that shows the study that unemployment and choosing a career path is a major cause of stress and anxiety in young adults, right? So from your own perspective, what are some of the common symptoms of a quarter-life crisis?
I think in my case, what I would say is the strongest pointer to a quarter-life crisis is this strong dissatisfaction that sits in your belly. It's like you can't quite place it, but every day you wake up and something is not just quite right. And it's the reason you'd see people our age who you ask, oh, what's going on? And they tell you nothing. And they're not being dishonest because really there's nothing. They are leading relatively good lives, but there is still something that they can't quite place a finger on. And so that dissatisfaction that you find permeates things like your relationships, your job. You're at your job where you don't quite feel satisfied, but I mean, it's not like you're doing badly on the job. You're with someone and they're okay, but you're not quite satisfied. Those things may be an indication that you may need to look inward and there's something that needs to be addressed.
Interesting. So how would you say is the best way to handle a quarter-life crisis?
Ooh, at the risk of sounding like a textbook, I would no, really. So, I mean, I'm not the most religious person in the book, but I find that a good place to start is to look upward. And when I say upward, I mean Godward. Sit down and ask questions to God, because, like Requiring says in the book, Purpose-Driven Life, a machine cannot operate itself. You need a higher power. So it's important that if you are inclined to watch such things, so ask God, what exactly is it that I'm in life, or what am I here for? This discontent that I'm feeling, God, what is the best way to address it? Now, the truth is the answer will not come in a still small voice. I mean, in my case, it didn't, but it's a good place to start. So the first place to start is ask the right questions. The second thing is to immerse yourself in stories. I like to say that after Jesus, the thing that has the power to change people the most is stories. Immerse yourself in stories that uplift you and point you in a direction. Because one of the most damaging things in the world is loneliness and isolation. So it's important that you immerse yourself in stories, because one of the most damaging things or most lethal poisons in the world is isolation and loneliness. The feeling that you're alone in the world is why depression actually kills, because people who are depressed feel like what they're experiencing is unique to them. So it's important that when you're experiencing a quarter-life crisis and all those, and it just feels like you are bogged down, you can't quite figure it out, it's important that you find stories of people that inspire you. Talk to people about what you're going through. It has a way of uplifting your spirit. And finally, I say that the greatest cure to handling a quarter-life crisis is to keep on living. Because here's the truth. Some things like life are best figured out by doing them. The truth is nobody has all the answers. We are all figuring out these things as we go along. Right. So with imposter syndrome that comes with, am I really good enough? Am I doing my best? Don't ask yourself questions that will simply halt your progress. Just keep doing what you're doing, right? Find what your hands know how to do and do them well. Because I find that purpose finds you in the place of faithfulness, right? Yeah. In every time in the Bible that God appears, that God has a message for someone like Mary, they are probably doing something in the meantime. So don't attempt to figure out your life. It's not a jigsaw puzzle, right? It's a wonderful adventure. So go out there, live it, experience it. Every day, wake up and do your best. And as long as you are doing your best, I can assure you that you're living life and you're on the right path.
Smart one. So finally, from my end, what are the positive sides of a quarter life crisis?
I think the positive side of a quarter life crisis is that, first of all, it teaches you, and it gives you stories, because very many times when you look back on your life at the things that define you, it's things like quarter life crisis that actually make you realize just how much your sacrifice or your life is worth. You see the things that you have had to live through, and it's like you tell yourself, in your case, Dolako, for instance, you tell yourself, if I could live through not having my father around, then really, what's a minor setback? Right? So I think it teaches you, it gives you stories that you can use to encourage other people. But I also find that things like quarter life crisis teaches you empathy. You start to realize that many are mad you are rolling, right? Everyone is going through something they may not be speaking about. And you realize how you are going to parties and seeming like you have fun, but your life is not exactly all put together. And it teaches you how to have compassion on other people. So it's important that you don't despise the days of your little beginnings. It's important that you don't hate yourself for feeling the way that you are currently feeling. And really, I assure you, it is never that deep. It's just life when you're doing great at it.
Thank you so much, Adeyinka. So in conclusion, I would just like to say, if going through a quarter life crisis can be overwhelming, which is outrightly overwhelming here, just remember that holding on to a little bit of positivity can go a long way for you. So take a deep breath and know you'll get through your quarter life crisis one step at a time. Thanks so much for speaking, Adeyinka.
Thank you so much. I had to do that.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we run off?
I'd like to say that this podcast is so terrific. The quality of the content, the kind of people you have on, the direction, the structure, everything is given. So to anyone who is having this quarter life crisis, all the best, people.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
Thank you for listening to What You View with Olu Dolapo. Do not forget to share, like, and leave a comment. Remember, you can reach out to us on Instagram at whatyouview_Olu Dolapo. And if you use Anchor, do not forget to leave us a voice message and leave a comment. Thank you once again for listening.